All right, greetings. How's everybody doing? Welcome to my garage. This is it's a little rough. It hasn't been cleaned up since uh, last season, but I'm going to keep the tour to a minimum here. I just want to explain the How It Works project. So, How It Works is a assignment that for the time being, will stand in lieu of another project that I used to do in the face-to-face courses. But for now, we're going to remove the group project, which is a project that I always have loved for my classes. In all of my classes, I've removed group work because I don't think that students are getting the most out of it as they could in the online format. But one day, fingers crossed, I'll be able to get that reintroduced. So for now, we have a How It Works project. It was a short little video. It's a presentation. The group project was a group presentation. This is basically the same amount of presentation you would have to do for that. And it's a fairly simple project. So let me explain the requirements real quick. So since I'm outside for a reason. I'll show you. I'm not just being wild out here, sitting in the cold while there's like a winter storm outside. Um, in a moment, I'll explain to you exactly what I'm looking for, or give you an example of the type of presentation I'm looking for. So what I want you to do is explain how something works. It can be a machine, it can be a system, it can be a recipe. That is also something. It can be how a virus is transmitted. Say you want to explain how COVID-19 is transmitted. That's fine. An example would be an oil change. You can look at, you can explain with your words how to do an oil change and why it's important to do an oil change. The most important thing about this speech is you're just explaining with your words how this works. That's it. Okay. Um, you must have a video that's under 4 minutes. Okay. So here's the unique part of this project. I want you to explain something, but you need to be able to explain it to me in under 4 minutes. It doesn't need to be a highly polished speech. You don't have to have a script. You don't got to turn a script into me. I just want you to get in front of a camera and explain something you're familiar with, how it works, okay? And that's all. That's the entire project. The audio must be clear so I can understand what you're saying. I don't want you to give me something with some grainy audio that doesn't, really work very well. It must be an explanation of how something works. That's the third part here. So first, video under 4 minutes. Second, clear audio. Third, it must be an explanation of how something works. Getting up here and explaining the rules to Yahtzee is not going to cut it. Okay, those are rules. I want to know how something works. If you want to explain to me, how the satellites stay in orbit, that would be a good example. If you want to explain how board games are printed, how Yahtzee, I don't know, is Yahtzee a board game? I don't know. I'm picking a funny sounding word and I'm using. I don't know that I remember playing Yahtzee in life. I probably have, but beyond the point. If you want to explain how a machine prints up a board game, that would be acceptable. But explaining the rules of something, not so much. If you want to explain the Electoral College, okay, how that system functions and operates, that would be appropriate. But explaining the laws of something is not what I'm looking for. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Picking something more mundane is usually easier, actually, and I'll explain this in a second here. Gestures are the only illustrative device. So if you want to explain something is about this big or something is this big, that's fine, okay? If you want to explain that something is a rectangle, okay, that's fine. I don't want you to actually bring in pictures. I don't want you to use visuals. I just want you to use gestures. If you want to say, when you're riding a motorcycle, this is your left turn, okay? If you want to say that, that's fine. So again, that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for this project. Maybe it would be, but I only want gestures that explain okay? I don't want visuals. I don't want you to bring in props. So, you know, my project today that I'm going to show you, I have some props to help you understand the thinking here, but that's not going to be part of my presentation. So just bear with me. You'll see what I'm talking about. The final thing I want you to do is submit a video via a video sharing service. So a YouTube, Vimeo, sometimes Google has like a Google Drive where if you upload the video, you'll be able to play it within the Google files, okay? But I don't want you to send me a raw file. That would be unruly. There'd just be way too many files for me to handle. Please upload it somehow. If you use Google Drive, I know for a fact, I don't know how it works because I don't use Google Drive, or I should say I don't frequently use Google Drive. I don't use Google Drive enough to know how the video upload thing works, okay? But what I would like you to do is I would like you to spend some time, okay, and get that video up here, less than 4 minutes, send it to me, copy and paste the link inside a document, and email that to me. That is the How It Works project, okay? So that's the requirements, okay? Basically, the way that I'm going to grade this is if you do everything, okay, or you get close to, you know, approximation with some minor misunderstandings, you'll get an A, okay? If you don't do it, it's like a fail. It's like a pass-fail kind of project. I want you to do everything that I asked for and get an A, or don't do everything and fail, okay? Does that make sense? I don't want to spend a lot of time nitpicking the grade like I would a persuasive speech. I want to offer feedback on how you use figurative language and how you use metaphors to explain very abstract concepts. So now let me explain here. I'm going to give a presentation. So my presentation is just so I can show you. Oh, this is already turning into a nightmare here. I'm going to, this is diatomaceous earth, okay? It's insect dust. So up here, left here by the former homeowners, there's also something called 7 insect poison, something probably very bad for ingesting. It's a poison. Diatomaceous earth is not a chemical. It's not a poison. Yes, there's probably chemical constructs in it, but it doesn't operate in the same way that an insecticide does. Diatomaceous earth operates like this broken glass here. This is my bucket of broken glass, okay? You hear that? All that broken glass in there? So this is a How It Works presentation, okay? So start the camera. Today I would like to explain to you diatomaceous earth. When I grow vegetables in the summer, I use diatomaceous earth to keep off any of the pests that want to eat at the leaves or eat at the flower buds or the little vegetables as they're growing. As opposed to pesticides, which are chemicals that poison the insect and thus potentially poisoning the person who's eating the food, diatomaceous earth works mechanically. So what I mean by mechanically is diatomaceous earth is a white powder to us. As humans, it's a white powder, and you know it doesn't look like much. But if you were to put it under a microscope, you would see all of its numerous jagged edges. Diatomaceous earth is fossilized something or another, but when insects crawl through diatomaceous earth, it cuts their body, and then they die from being cut. So as opposed to ingesting a poison or breathing in a poison that would in turn get in my food, this dust keeps it so that the insects that want to crawl into my plants and eat all of the hard work that I've poured in over the season in growing these beautiful vegetables, the diatomaceous earth keeps it so that the insects stay away from my plants, because doing so means their death. But it also doesn't mean poisoning myself and my family. So that is why I use diatomaceous earth. Just imagine dumping a giant bucket of glass shards and being asked to walk through it barefoot. It would be very unpleasant, and you would likely stay away from anywhere that had those glass shards there. That is the equivalent of an insect walking through diatomaceous earth. So that is my presentation, and that is how diatomaceous earth works. Thank you. Okay? So that's the speech. That's it. That's all I want you to do. I did not script that. I just, in my mind, I just explained to you something that I know how it works already. And that's what I would like you to do. Pick something you're familiar with already, okay? And that's it. And that's all I would like you to do. Now, I should probably dust off my clothes and wash my hands before Diatomaceous Earth gets into my food and cuts my tongue or something when I'm trying to eat my porridge today. Thank you, everybody. That is how it works.